Most people think that working harder, taking on more work, and always being available will get you to the top, but they won't. But these three tiny behaviors, which are almost invisible from the outside, will. I've spent 25 years watching how senior leaders actually operate, including my time as a partner, COO, and head of people at KPMG, one of the world's largest professional services firms. And the people who keep rising, they're not doing more, they're doing these three things. So in this video, I'm going to show you the three habits that separate the executives who keep advancing from everybody else, including the one that most high performers resist completely. And none of these are big changes. They're small, almost boring, but the people who do them move ahead further every year. And the people who don't, they stay busy and stuck. Most high performers are already working hard enough. They don't need to do more, but they do need to do things differently. And the difference, as you're going to see, is often just a few minutes a day. So let's start with the first one, because this is where most days are already lost before they begin. So this is all about doing your most important work first. And you've heard the advice before, do your most important work first thing in the morning. And the usual reason is about willpower and energy. And yes, that's true. But I think there's a much bigger reason that gets overlooked. And that's about whether you have a choice at 6 p.m. So this is what I mean. If you do your most important work early in the day, then by the time your meetings are done, close the laptop, see your family, go for a walk, whatever it is. The important thing is already done. But if you haven't done it yet, when your meetings for the day finish, you don't have that choice. It's still sitting there waiting for you. And I learned this the hard way at KPMG. For years, I thought that my most important work was meeting board members from major clients or winning big new pieces of work. But it turns out that it wasn't. My most important work was the time that I had spent on my own reviewing what my teams had done. And I used to do that work in the evenings and on the weekends because those are the only times when I wasn't in constant meetings and calls with colleagues and clients. So I was doing the most important part of my job when I was tired or when I'd rather been doing something else. And I didn't have a choice. The end of the day came and I had to do that work. So when I realized this, I started blocking time first thing every morning. A recurring appointment with myself just marked as busy. No email, no Teams, just the work that actually mattered. And I'd decide what work I was going to do in those slots at the end of the previous day, so I could just sit down and start immediately in the morning. And there was a compounding effect that I didn't expect, because when you do this and get your most important work done early so you can finish work at a more reasonable time, you will sleep better because you're not half thinking about work at 10 o'clock at night. So you wake up with more energy, which then makes that morning's most important work even better. But it compounds the other way too. If you skip the morning work, drag the important stuff into your evening, then you'll fail to switch off, you'll probably sleep worse, you'll wake up tired, and then you're going to skip the morning work again. And that's a loop that a lot of senior people are stuck in without realizing it. Now you think that protecting the morning is the hard part, but even people who get this right often undo it by how they handle messages the rest of the day. So habit 2 is all around setting communication rules. Every time you check Teams or Slack or email, you break whatever train of thought you were on. And it doesn't just pick up where it left off when you get back to it. It can take time to get back to where you were. And sometimes you never get there. So if you're checking messages every few minutes, you're basically thinking in the gaps between those interruptions. And those gaps aren't long enough for anything good to happen in them. There's a reason why your best thinking happens in the shower or on a walk without your phone or at 6 o'clock in the morning before anyone else is awake. And it's because those are the only times that nobody is messaging you. I used to think that being responsive and always available was part of being good at my job. But then I started noticing something when I couldn't respond straight away. So I used to do quite a lot of long international flights for work. Or sometimes, when I was on holiday, most of the messages that I would have normally rushed to reply to, they either resolved themselves or they got answered by someone else, or they turned out to be far less urgent than the notification made them feel. So in my last few years at KPMG, I set up something really quite simple with my internal teams. And there were 3 tiers here of how we were going to communicate with each other. If it was an email, we'd expect a response within a few days. If it was a Teams message, we'd expect a response within a few hours. And if something was genuinely urgent, which was rare, we'd pick up the phone. And that was it. Everyone knew where they stood. And the effect was immediate. People stopped chasing and I stopped reacting. And because everyone knew that a Teams message would get a response within a few hours, nobody panicked when they didn't hear back straight away. It removed the guesswork, which turned out to be causing most of the anxiety in the first place. And what surprised me most was how little changed when I stopped replying to everything immediately. But what did change was the quality of my thinking. I can actually hold bigger ideas in my head for longer without losing the thread halfway through. And that connects back to the first habit, because the time that you protect in the morning only works if you're not fragmenting it with constant messages. And by the way, if you want to go deeper on how these sorts of things play out in real careers, I write about the patterns that I keep seeing across the senior professionals I work with every week in my newsletter. The link is in the description. The third habit is knowing when to stop. I don't mean stop work, but I mean stop working on something. So if your idea is good enough, you don't need to worry about perfecting the final 5%. And if your idea isn't good enough, then perfecting the last 5% is not going to save it. Either way, that final polish takes a disproportionate amount of time and almost never changes how effective the thing is. The problem is that refining details feels like progress. You can see things getting tighter, but knowing when something is done enough is one of the most underrated skills in any senior role. Here's an example. Earlier this week, I put together a proposal for a client, a 10-month training program for senior leaders. And the core of it, the structure and the main content of the ideas, they came together in about an hour. And then I spent several more hours refining the details, redoing sections that were already clear and adding supporting points that didn't need to be there. A quick look. They got the gist. They liked the big ideas. They wanted to talk. That was the outcome that I needed. And I would have had that after the first hour. Everything after that was actually for me rather than for them. And you probably do the same thing from the other side. Think about the last report somebody sent you. Do you study every line or do you scan it for the big ideas? And here's something that I didn't expect. Leaving a bit of space in your work, a rough edge or a gap, actually makes it better because it gives other people room to contribute. They can build on it. Your good idea becomes their good idea too, which is how ideas actually gain traction in companies. If you polish everything until it's airtight, then people will start picking at the details instead of engaging with the idea. It's a bit like music. A demo recording of a great song is always better than a studio-produced recording of a mediocre song. It's the idea that does the heavy lifting. And this connects to both the other habits. Protect your best hour for the work that matters, and don't fragment it with constant messages, and then trust yourself to know when it's done enough. These three habits will help, but they won't solve the bigger question, because you can execute perfectly and still be heading in the wrong direction. So watch this video next, where I show you the exact method I use with clients to find the work that actually fits who you've become. Because even the best daily habits won't feel right until you're pointing them in the right direction. But remember to sign up for my newsletter first so that you can have some of this stuff written down so that you can be more successful. The link is in the description.